So, investing to most of you is like swimming with crocodiles. And that's actually what I would like to tell you tonight. So most of people and most of investors jump into the water when everybody else is doing that. When there's a peak of the market, everybody likes to buy and they go and invest. And this very often is not such a good idea to do whatever else is doing, what everybody else is doing. And I'm sure you know lots of people who lost lots of money on the stock exchange. And I have to tell you, myself, I did several very bad deals on which I lost lots of money. And I was like this animal chased by the crocodiles, and my money went to one of these crocodiles on the stock exchange. There is a quote by Mr. Rothschild, Baron Rothschild, that's his name, and he said that you should invest when there is blood on the streets. And I started exploring this idea and decided to educate myself a little bit more about the strategy of investing, which worked very well for many great investors. So I've composed a list of major crises on the stock exchanges and financial crises in the world. So these are crises for the last 14 years, right? So I'll go through most of them, and we will see how we would do if we invested our money in one of these markets. So we will start with Korea, and this is a chart of Korean stock exchange index. And there was a crisis in Korea in the year 1997, and as you see, the markets collapsed, and you had lost like double, 2 times almost 50% of your investment. But after that, 2 years later, if you have waited through the crisis, in approximately 2 years, you would have made from 2 to 3 times money. Well, you may look, Korea maybe other crises are different. Well, if you look at the Russian crisis, just 1 year later, I think it was, yes, 1 year later. And this is actually the time when one of the famous investors, George Soros, lost lots of money in Russia because he invested before the crisis started, and he lost lots of money. But actually in Russia, if you invested during the crisis and later after the crisis, you would have made from 2 to 4 times money, depending on the timing. It's quite difficult to be precise on timing in the next 2 years, right? So next, it's Primo. How many years later? 3 years later, in Argentina. So there's another big crisis in Argentina, and it's a kind of history repeats itself, right? Again, several years later, you could have made from 2 to 4 times money, depending on exact timing when you went into the market during the crisis. Then for almost 7 years, there was no big crisis. 2001, 2008, there was not real anything big crisis. And when it hit it big, it hit really strong. The financial market in the United States collapsed. Lehman Brothers, one of the largest investment banks, collapsed, went bankrupt. Interbanking loans stopped in the United States. So the Federal Reserve Bank started printing money and like never before. And this is an index. This is probably I have chosen NASDAQ index, which is also, there are also other indexes, but I have chosen NASDAQ index. And look, it's almost very similar to Poland if you look at this index. Not exact, of course, but it's quite similar to Poland. So it's the end of year 2008 and beginning of year 2009. If you put in March 2009, it would have been the best. So it's 2 times money after 2 years, and slightly slightly more in Poland if you have put this money in Poland at the same time, right? Well, now that's where I put my money in, here in this blue spot, because I've read these books and Rothschild and everybody else, and I thought, well, there is blood on the streets, so perfect time to invest. And it was exactly in exact words, and there was blood on the streets in Egypt. And so that's where I put my money into the market. And 2 months later, I've made 20%, but I didn't sell, and actually right now I'm about the same as the cost. So I'm waiting for markets to recover. And if you invest, you generally have to assume that there may be a second dip. You may wait much longer than you think, and you should really count at least 1 year, 2 years before you sell, right? So I didn't make any money yet, but maybe sometime. Greece. Well, Greece is a crisis unfolding right now, and that's probably one of the most talked markets about. This is again the average performance of stock exchange. It's a Greek stock exchange index. So if you put in the year 2008 your money into Greece on the stock exchange, now you would have had 25 cents on the dollar, right? So you've invested $1, now you have 25 cents. It's very cheap right now in Greece. Actually, I was considering to invest there, but I thought not yet, because I think it will be even worse. So I'm still waiting for a little bit more action there. So what's the conclusion? Actually, not conclusion, but you may think why this is happening and why I presented you so many slides and crises, how it's possible to make money when everybody else is selling, right? Because a crisis, everybody's selling, and when it's peak of the market, everybody is buying because everybody else is making money. So you should think that during the financial crisis, it's like money is like water. Money is like water because it gives liquidity to other investors. So if you go into the market, if you invest, it's like having a cup of water in the desert, right? It's very valuable. So you effectively, you're providing liquidity to other investors. And so what should we do? I think this is my strategy right now, what I'm doing myself. So you should sit on the money, wait for the crisis, and follow the crocodiles.